Wicked as They Come, and also known as Lila Bowen, and Kevin Hearne, also known as Kevin Hearne.
So cute!
Here for Kill the Farm Boy. Let's give them a big round of applause.
Yes, I'm supposed to take a picture. It's because you're all so amazing looking. You want to say, cover up your face if you're, hiding.
By the pool.
You can also do a Spider-Man.
Otherwise,
You can totally do a Spider-Man if you want to.
Wave. Thank you. That's awesome. Thank you.
Yay!
And thank you all over here, the hidden folks over here. It is so cool to be here.
No, it's very hot here.
Well, because of air conditioning, it's very cool to be here. Yeah. We were just signing a whole bunch of stuff. But I think while we talk, our hands will be recuperated enough for the signing here in just a moment. But I'm so excited because we came up with this idea in an airport barbecue, which I don't recommend the barbecue. But I recommend coming up with fun ideas in airports because what else are you going to do in an airport? And so this crazy idea that we had to make fun of the chosen one storyline, I guess, that you see over and over and over again in fantasy and even some sci-fi. That is now a real thing that you can hold and read. So we're so excited that
You're holding a joke, guys. One long prank.
I love it.
yeah, we had the best time with it. We for about a year we were just kind of wondering, well, how are we going to do this? We were originally thinking of being an anthology, and then Delilah one day said, "You know what? Anthologies are hard. Why don't we just write this ourselves?" And I'm like, that sounds so much easier.
This is why you should always work with someone who's not organized.
I
Very lazy.
It was fantastic though. I mean, we started working on it together, and we did like 5 sample chapters just to see. Well, let's just try it. Let's see how it goes. And we had so much honking fun doing these first 5 chapters, and then outlining the rest of it. That even by the end of those 5 chapters, I'm like, why did I never collaborate before?
Because it was the right time.
Yeah. It was just so much fun to work with Delilah. We have similar senses of humor. She makes me giggle all the time. So the way we'll do it is that I'll write a chapter and send it to Delilah, and then she will edit it. She will add in little jokes and other little goodies of all kinds.
Well, mostly the words, "Oh my God, Kevin, are you going there? You went there! You went there! Oh my God!"
She puts little comments in there, and then she'll write her chapter, send it to me. I will also edit and say, "Oh my God," and little comments about things, and we just go back and forth, and it's so much fun. I've never, obviously, if I did that kind of commenting and editing with my own work, that would be, kind of alarming to talk to yourself that way.
Oh my gosh, Kevin, this is such a good chapter.
What a great...
You nailed it, brother.
Great joke there, Kev. Yeah, so I just feel super lucky to be here, and I hope you guys enjoy reading it as much as we had, as much as we enjoyed writing it.
What do I? No, you
Yeah,
leave this shit.
Well, I was wondering if you wanted to talk about anything in particular.
I thought you should drop the mics and walk out.
Why would you do that to Sarah? No, please don't!
So the whole thing about Pell, though, is that we wanted to create a world in which we could do multiple stories, and so we do have more coming after this.
Yay!
You want to tell them about the second book?
The second book, Kevin came up with the title. It's No Country for Old Gnomes.
And I've actually always wanted to write about gnomes because nobody does really. Like, they exist in video games and they exist in RPGs and stuff like that, but nobody really does much with them except for like those Romeo and Nomeo or something like that.
To be fair, they also make lawn gnomes that wear thongs. I've seen them. It happens.
So we wanted to kind of work with the gnome culture and also do a lot more
No
with
thongs.
dwarves,
It's safe.
and yeah, it has a lot of. It does have a goth gnome though.
Yes!
It's very goth gnome.
Yes.
His cardigan is black with bats.
Yes!
That was Delilah's creation. It's just fantastic. And we have a Griffin in there and so on. And actually, you can go see the cover for it. It's already out there if you like it. So
it's on the Pell website, talesofpell.com.
I was there today. Yeah. If you head to the talesofpell.com, then the map is there. There's also a really fun name generator so that you can choose male, female, non-binary, and then one of 9 different critters. You could be a centaur, you could be a griffin, you could be a giant or a troll or whatever. And then it'll give you a little bit of names there, and then a little something about your background. You could use it as a character for your RPG if you want, if you were going to be in Pell or anything else. And just have a good time with it. It's just there for fun. But yeah, on the Tales of Pell site, if you look, there's a little button at the top that says the Tales. And of course, the first one's Kill the Farm Boy. But you could, if you go there, you will see the cover for No Country for Old Gnomes too.
You're selling yourself short there, Kevin, because if you haven't seen the map in this book, Kevin drew it. He is the cartographer of Pell. He did that. It's the best map I've ever seen.
I geeked out a lot. It's if you haven't, check out the map in the front. It's honestly, I was basically giggling the whole time. I was making it up.
Somebody found the morning wood.
Yes, the elves live in the morning wood. The maturity level just gets lower from there.
Yes!
So there's all kinds of good stuff. Yeah, what I really like is that there's a hunting camp right outside the morning wood called Foreskins. Yeah, that's story. So that's the kind of stuff you're gonna get. I mean, there's a plot too, but there's a lot of really bad puns in there. Some of them are gonna make you, as adults go woohoo, and then you might have some others where you're like, well, this is time for an awkward family conversation with the child.
To be fair, I test all of this on my 9-year-old son, and it passes the fart test, so we're good.
Yes!
Yeah, some things just might go over the head, and that's fine. You can explain it later, kind of thing, but just enjoy all the little, there are a lot of little, sometimes Pixar is really good at this, right? They'll come up with a movie that is appealing to kids, but then there's some little jokes in there kind of embedded for the adults as well. And that's kind of what we were doing with Kill the Farm Boy. So there's plenty of that going on. A lot of puns that are just going to sail right over the little kids' heads, but you're going to get it. And have fun with it. So, so the map is something that we're going to use the same map for No Country for Old Gnomes and for the third book, which is called The Princess Beard. And you do not have to necessarily read them in order. They can be read in any order, but if you do read them in order, you will see that there are a few recurring characters and threads that kind of go through there. So.
And there are hints on the map.
Yes, that's true. Yeah. So I think enjoy the heck out of that map. It's also on the website as well. So if you have friends who are reading the ebook and they're like, dang it, I can hardly read the map.
I can't find home tulips.
Yeah, Home Tulips is a great place. A wonderful seaside resort. We have a stupid amount of fun coming up with the names for those cities in there. So, anyway, what else? I think that in terms of the chapter titles, we had a great time just basically using prepositional phrases for all of them. And they had a whole bunch of tension kind of built in that way. But it might not be obvious exactly what's happening there with the titles, but it will become so as you read it.
My favorite part is the one about the marmoset.
The snorts are great. I'm so glad you're having a good time. Yeah. We're trying to give you your money's worth of laughter. I'm not sure in terms of what else to cover except for, if you guys have some questions, because I always want to make sure you leave here with stuff that, is incredibly, important to you. I want to say, though, one of the reasons that I wanted to work with Delilah is because I'm a huge fan of her work solo. Writing under Lila Bowen, her Wake of Vultures, it begins with Wake of Vultures. It's called The Shadow is what the series is called. It's one of my favorite things out there. I just love it. And I use it when I teach voice, the craft of writing voice to writers. And then I also, of course, love her YA stuff. Hit and Servants of the Storm, a spooky Southern Gothic. So she has written a whole bunch of stuff. There's the Wickedest of Kinds stuff, and of course Phasma was a Star Wars novel that I read in a single sitting because I couldn't put it down. It's so damn good.
Because I taped it to his hands and lit a fire under it. It worked.
So anyway, if you've never read Delilah's stuff before, please do, because it's just fantastic. And you're going to love what she does there, because she's a great storyteller.
I feel like you guys have probably heard of Kevin Hearne's Iron Druid series.
Oh yeah!
If you haven't, hound it, Kevin Hearne. Meet Oberon. Be happy.
Yes!
We got to go to Rule
A Plague of Giants, which is one of my favorite books from last year, which is a really wonderful fantasy that is a whole new sweeping world.
if you guys haven't been to Rule of Bulla, by the way, it's real.
It's so good. It's so good.
Yeah. I went there today with Delilah, and we had lamb stew. It's off menu for lunch, but you can ask for it and they'll bring it out. So I love the lamb. It's not something you find everywhere, and not only is it there, it's super good. And then we had the bread pudding. Oh my god. And if any of you guys like whiskey at all, Rule of Bulla is one of the very few places where you can actually get Angel's Envy rye, which is different from the bourbon. And the rye is the most divine smelling stuff. We just didn't drink it for a while. Just like, let's just smell this for a while.
We didn't look weird at all.
No. Just sitting there sniffing the.
Brady's like, wait, open your mouth and sniff it.
That's
It's got
true.
weird.
Yeah, if you just sniff with your nose, you're only using some of your senses. You got a whole other bunch of smell receptors in the back of your throat. So if you kind of stick your nose in there and open your mouth and sniff that way with your mouth open, I know you look funny doing it. But whenever you're reading coffee or wine descriptions, they're like, well, it has a little hint of Madagascar vanilla. You're like, how do you know? And it's because they open their mouth when they smell it. Then you instantly get Madagascar vanilla.
Afterbirth.
Yeah, all that stuff. That's where it comes from, because you do smell different things once you open your mouth. It's really kind of funky. I got taught that by another writer, so yay. It's great to meet folks. I'm sorry? Oh, yes. Yeah, I was at Ash Avenue Comics today. I have a comic book. Iron Druid comic book. So, issue 1 is out, and issue 2 is coming out very soon. And it's pretty dang good. I love the artwork by Cliff Richards. Had to tell him what a bighorn sheep was. Because sometimes, if they're not from the area, right? They're not sure what a desert bighorn sheep looks like compared to a sheep. And so there's things like that so I advised on some stuff and approved the artwork. And they did a bang-up job with it. So it is over at Ash Avenue Comics on Ash Avenue. Just south of the university. That shop is owned by my cousin. And Cartel Coffee Lab is just 2 doors down, and that is the actual real world site of Third Eye Books and Nerds. So there you have it. Have fun if you want to go geek out over there. Do we have any questions from you guys? Yeah.
Can I smack Granuel?
Nope.
No.
She's doing her thing. She's having a good old time.
I agree with her.
She's a
strong, independent woman.
I still want to smack her.
Well, I'm sorry. Sorry about that. Yes.
I just want to say one
Sure.
thing. Thank you for not killing Atticus.
Okay, you're welcome.
And thank you for leaving the door open a crack. He's getting his arm with me.
I have a book called it's going to be out in Death and Honey. So I wrote another Oberon's Meaty Mystery. It's called The Buzzkill. And there's a bee involved. So so that's going to be coming out, and it's set after Scourge, so it gives you a little bit of a look at what they're doing afterward. And it's set in Tasmania and all that good stuff. So that'll be coming out, though, I think in February. And it's going to be part of an anthology with Delilah and Chuck Wendig. And it's going to be called Death and Honey. We're all writing about bees. So
the bees aren't the main characters.
The bees aren't the main characters. Yeah, it's just a theme. Yeah. Like 3 Slices was all about cheese wizards. So now we want to do something where like be noir.
We do very normal things.
Yeah. We get together, we're like, let's just do murder with bees, you know? And so that's our new anthology idea after doing Cheese Wizards. So that'll be out in February, called Death and Honey. In the Buzzkill is the Oberon story, and then Delilah is. Did we decide what you're doing yet, or?
Oh yeah, I'm doing a Wake of Vultures Shadow series story called Grist of Bees.
Grist of Bees. Okay, awesome. And then Chuck is doing Interlude the
Tanager.
The Tanager.
He does Tanager.
And
Miss
that's
Miriam
from
Black
his
series.
from his Miriam Black, yeah. But there will be death and bees in it.
Okay.
So
Good to know.
I guarantee. So yeah, that's going to be out in February. And you'll be able to get a hardcover version from Subterranean Press, and you will also be able to get it in ebook and audio. So
Because you also have Oberon's Medium Mysteries out with Subterranean Press and really
Right.
beautiful hardcovers.
yeah,
right?
they're gorgeous. Yeah. So thank you for the question, or the comment, I suppose.
Oh,
yes.
you're welcome.
Yes.
My comment was kind of on the wake of hers. Thank you for leaving it hopeful. It wasn't a happy ending, but it was a hopeful ending. And I almost wanted to strangle you for a very short moment, but you left it hopeful, and I was okay with that.
I'm so happy I'm not strangled.
I think my job's so hard.
I'm gonna let him run you over.
Did you read Misery? Okay.
No, I didn't read that.
Stephen King.
People keep telling me about that too. They're like, "Hey, Kevin, you went to see a fan? Haven't you read Misery?" I'm like, you realize that was fiction, right? like there's never been a documented case of somebody actually doing that to an author. Yeah.
Don't be the first.
Yeah.
Yes, I did. Delilah, I'm sure Disney and Star Wars are kind of sensitive about secrecy, but for fans of your Phasma book, can you give us any hope for a future announcement?
I can only tell you that I spent an entire year of my life trying to convince you that Phasma could not be killed, and I think we all hold a similar hope that that will remain true.
Yeah, you don't actually see her expire in that movie, do you? She just falls down in flames.
I was wondering if you might be writing another book in that universe.
Let Lucasfilm know you'd like that, or Del Rey. I would love to write more, but I don't have anything going right now, sadly.
Yeah, those things are always, they come to you kind of thing, and based on whatever they want to do, so it's never predictable.
But the only ray of sunshine we do have, you've heard of Star Wars Galaxy's Edge, their new area? They released a pin on their special media night that has Vi Marati from Phasma, the rebel spy, is part of Galaxy's Edge. I don't know what she's doing. No one has consulted me on this because she's my child. I don't know what she's doing, but apparently she's there getting into trouble, so she'll be there.
Sorry, jeez.
That was awesome. It's a really good Star Wars book. If you've never read Star Wars, if you've just seen the movies, you can totally read Phasma because you've seen the movie. You know who she is, but you learn so much about the character, and it makes her very short appearances in the movies make more sense. Honestly, it's fantastic. So, any other questions? Yes, sir.
So when you were writing Kill the Carnival, you said you just went back and forth chapter to chapter. Was it total improv, or did you kind of have an idea of where you were going to take the storyline?
Our process is typically we sit down and talk about what we want the book to be about, like the theme and the goal, and we hammer out the main characters, usually on Frenchman's Street or in Seattle cocktail tiki bars, and we come up together with like a 30-chapter outline, kind of going back and forth, saying, okay, well, I think here we go to here, and then it's very back and forth and organic.
Yeah, what we do is we come up with the characters and figure out what do these characters want, and what's in their way, what's preventing them from getting, etc. And your plot comes from who your characters are as people and how they're trying. We have to decide how are they going to grow. So it kind of develops out of the characters mostly, and then we basically are switching character viewpoints from chapter to chapter. So that's what you're going to see in Kill the Farm Boy. The viewpoint shifts from to the third person perspective of different characters as you go through in the party. And they each have their own little arc of growth. And so it is never just an omniscient, well, here's what's happened next. We get everybody's little perspective. So that's kind of how we built it. And there was an outline. We kind of know, like, okay, here's the beginning and then here's the end. And the middle is kind of left up to a lot of improv. There is room. We might know, for example, in this chapter, they're going to be at a dwarvish inn. By the way, I love that Delilah did this, because we were talking about how, is it dwarfs with an F, or is it dwarves with a V? And then Delilah's like, no, it's dwarvish.
Yes.
Screw them all.
Numeric. I like numeric.
Numeric instead of nomic or whatever. So we just decided to make up our own little adjectives for those things. Yeah, and I love numeric because of Homeric. So yeah, we just had a great time with that. So we might have the party at a dwarvish inn, and we might say that this very, some kind of plot point happens, but how that is accomplished is left up entirely to the person who's writing that chapter once we get there. And a lot of times what happens is, builds on what happened before and so on. So we just, once we have these very sort of clumsily blocked out sort of ideas for what the chapters are, we then start, drafting and refining as we go. It's a lot of fun. So you do have the structure, but there's a ton of room for improv too. So that's what I meant by both.
We also have the opening where, like, if you're writing chapter 14 and you kind of want to be able to finish that scene, but okay, well, is it okay if I do chapter 15 too? And then Kevin would say, oh yeah, that's fine. I wanted to do 16 and 17. And so sometimes it would happen, you do 2 or 3 in a row to kind of finish your ideas, and then you leave the other person with a fertile ground. You won't leave it like, and then everyone died. Fix it! But you try to give them things to work with that they would be interested in.
Absolutely, and then I would also say that by the time, so yeah, I might have 2 chapters to write, and Delilah will have 2 or whatever, but by the time we've edited each other and stuff, you can't tell. Even my editor, who's edited all of my Iron Druid books, Trisha, she could not tell which chapters I wrote originally and which Delilah wrote, because it is blended into a hybrid voice by the end of it. And so and I know that there are jokes in there that people that are pretty, wow, that was a nasty one, and you're gonna think I did it. No. Delilah has the most amazing sense of humor, so yeah, do not automatically assume that the dirty jokes were mine.
I wrote the Sextopus chapter.
Yes.
I mean, an octopus has 8 legs, so a sextopus is just a 6-legged octopus. It's just nature. It's biology. It's Latin.
Yes.
Logical.
Going back to Oberon, do we have puppies in his next book?
They happened, yes. The puppies happened. I don't dwell on them or anything like that, but yes, the Orla had her puppies. Yes, for sure.
And they go to the kids?
Yes. Yes.
So as you're progressing throughout the Iron Druid series and you have Luke Daniel narrating for you, did you start to kind of get him in your head when you were writing some of the further books down the line?
No, I have completely different voice in my head. Honestly, I still do than what Luke does, and that's fine. Anybody who's going to be a performing artist, right? They're always going to bring their take to it, and that's art. That's cool. When you read a book without listening to the audiobook, but when you're reading a book, you have a voice in your head too, and you're really doing your own performative art as well, right? So everybody's bringing their own voice to it, and that's awesome to me. So I never worried about that. But I will tell you this, that I started messing with him. Because I'm like, oh, well, all right, Granuel's running through Poland. I could pick a city in Poland that he could read, or I could pick one that's all consonants. And so that's what I did. Haha. Try to read, because Polish has some really interesting things that they do, where they will they'll have a CZ and an SZ sound, and they'll put them right back to back sometimes, and it's like, kind of a thing. So I picked a city that had like several of those in a row, and it's a real city on the map. And I'm like, haha. And so I will do that to mess with him, and he knows I do it too. He's like, oh, I see what you did there. Damn you, Hearne.
That's all right.
Other questions? Yes.
What do you guys read for fun?
Each other's books.
Welcome to the softball. There you go.
Right now I'm reading one called Kings of the Wild by Nicholas Eames. I think that's how he says it. E-A-N-E-S is the last name. It's really fun, epic fantasy, kind of a, getting the band. They're like old heroes. They used to be young, monster-slaying, band of heroes, and now they're old and have to get the band back together. And it's really fun. I like it a lot so far. I'm not finished with it. That's what I'm currently reading. And also Naomi Novik's Spinning Silver, which it just came out last week. It's the sequel to Uprooted, which won the Nebula. Did it also win the Hugo? But I know it won the Nebula. It was fantastic.
It's really good.
Just the Nebula. There's fantastic books, so it's a fairy tale sort of fantasy kind of thing. Spinning Silver is a slightly different take on Rumpelstiltskin, I believe. So a really cool retelling, and I'm really looking forward to that.
What was that first one? Kings of the
Wild, and it's spelled like wild stallions from Big Adventure, W-Y-L-D. So yeah. That's the name of the forest that they went and had adventures in. The Wild. What about you? What are you reading?
I've got a big blurb stack, so I've mostly been reading things to blurbs. I've been reading Queen of the Unwanted by...
I heard that is so good. Jenna Glass.
Yes. Jenna Glass. Empress of Forever by Max Gladstone.
Oh, nice.
A Memory Called Empire by Arkady Martine. I bought The Poppy War by R.F. Huang.
Yes, that was fantastic.
But my current really favorite thing to read that I love more than anything is a comic book from IDW, which is Transformers Lost Light, as written by James Roberts. I haven't felt this emotionally destroyed since Watership Down. It's literature. I don't care if it's about cartoon robots from the 80s.
You still get feels, man. It's okay.
It comes out every weekend, and I'm like, well, here's my box of Kleenex. So yeah, that's my current favorite thing to read every when they're headed towards the Unicron extinction event. But I'm like, I'm here for it, and I don't need a heart anyway.
I've got to read these. I didn't know. Cool. Thank you for the question. Any others?
So you mentioned, like, in the gnome book that you created one of the gnomes. As you were writing, did you find that you claimed certain characters that you felt like they belonged to one or other of you as you wrote them, or did you just share all the characters and just write the chapters?
You know how when you and your friend are kind of drunk on a Saturday night, you're not quite sure whose idea it was to It's a lot like that.
Remember we went to that place and that thing happened? Whose fault was that? I don't know. It was the rye, the tequila, some one of those guys.
With the gnomes, we had twins. We wanted to play with twins, and it was like they were too similar as we went on. We were kind of trying to slightly differentiate them, and it wasn't clear enough that they were very different. And I was like, what if one's just God and he's Guy Lighter in a black cardigan? It's me! Perfect!
So it's, yeah, their names are Ani and Offie.
For example, we were story breaking this book. We were at a conference together in New Orleans, and we were just starting to come up with the idea for the book. We knew that this night we were going to go to Frenchman Street, just go from bar to bar and just talk it out. We're all excited. We're sitting in the hotel waiting for something, waiting for a ghost tour.
Yeah.
We're sitting like, there's a lot of Griffin. Like, there's a troubling amount of griffins in the imagery of this hotel, and so they were like, oh my God, they're everywhere. They're watching us. They're trapped in the... And then we're like, what if we just put a griffin in the book?
Yeah, the griffin that's on the cover now is inspired by the hotel decor of this place in New Orleans we were staying randomly. And that's kind of the fun thing about, like, we like to go and figure out a story in a certain place, give us some place different than where we live. It's much different if you're being inspired by a setting than like Skyping from your office, you know.
What if we used a window?
Yeah. Right. So that way, the Griffin thing came to be, and then we were just inspired by the atmosphere and
well, you missed the major point there.
Oh.
Which when I was like, what if we did a Griffin? And you were like, but it's really flatulent.
Well, yeah, because I was thinking about, okay, a couple of things. Like, have you ever seen Griffins on, you know, on like, yeah, they're always posed in this amazing position. And it reminded me of like somebody like lifting up one cheek and ripping one. So I'm like, what if that's what Griffins have been doing the whole time? And we just think they're noble, but not really. They're just really, they have some irritable bowel syndrome. And so that was where one of the things, you know, came from. But just, yeah, I wanted to play with, we're all about flipping tropes, you know?
Yes.
And so since Griffins are supposed to be these incredibly majestic creatures, we wanted to kind of give the Griffin an embarrassing body issue. So that was kind of what we're all about through the whole thing.
We're all about flatulent monsters.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, we had so much fun coming up with. I think what actually happened, like I remember Kill the Farm Boy a lot more just because it was the first one, and I remember that there were some characters where I would make up the character, and then it just worked out that Delilah wound up writing the first chapter using that character, and therefore really fleshed out the character a whole lot. And then I ran with that when it was my turn to write that character down the road. But then vice versa happened. Delilah created a character, and then I wound up writing the first chapter for that character. And so no, they didn't, I mean, to answer the original question, right, which was, you know, do they really belong to you? No, everything really does blend very well together, and we don't really feel ownership of any particular character. We've both written all of the characters, if that makes sense.
Which I think might actually be rare in writing partnerships, is that we're very good friends first, and we have taken ego out of the equation, where there's no like, this is mine, you can't mess with it. Like there's just such an openness. We haven't had any issues of, that's mine. It was just like, oh my god, that thing you did was the best.
Yeah, basically that's how we work. we work with just like, oh, I love what you did there, and we have, yeah, we don't have ownership. I know that some folks do, that they work that way, and that's fine. If it works for them, awesome. But we never really got there. We just figured it was a party of folks, and they all have, you know, a place to go, and we came up with where they were going together, and so these characters were ours.
I would also say that whenever one of us had something distinctly in mind, we would set that out there. You know, it's like it's a relationship. If you see there might be a problem, you don't wait until it's already done and go, hey dude, you messed up. You go, hey, if it's okay with you, I was really hoping to do X, and then, you know, talk it out to get where we wanted to go. So we didn't like lay traps to mess each other up. We were more collaborative from the start.
Exactly. Yeah.
Except for that trap I put in Kevin's hallway that don't
Did you guys ever fight over anything? Like, and not like fight, but like, no, I wanted it this way.
I choked him out.
I wanted it this way.
Flat out choked him out in the street. No, I didn't. You guys believed it for a minute, didn't you?
It's an interesting image.
Yeah, no, we haven't really. It's always been like, oh, well, I thought we would do this, and then I explain where what if we kind of do this? And, well, that sounds important to you, homie. Why don't you go ahead and do that? Thanks, Delilah. And so sometimes something like that will happen. Look, that happened like once.
Yeah.
Pretty much it. Yeah, it's been fine. Just one. Fantastic. Hi. Any other questions? We good? Yes. Hi, Lorian.
Hi. So I've already taken a writing course with Delilah, and it was a lot of fun.
I'm so sorry.
And very informative. And so Kevin, earlier you mentioned that you use Phasma when teaching writers how to write voice.
Oh, it was Wake of Vultures.
Oh, Wake of Vultures.
Yes.
So when and where and how many monies do it cost?
Okay, so my voice thing is actually, I don't have like a gigantic course on it or anything. But when I'm asked to go to a writing conference, I always do my little hour workshop. It's a very quick thing on voice. And I use Delilah's Wake of Vultures as an example of how you can do voice. A lot of times people get into the trap of thinking, well, voice is a first person thing. but no. Voice can be done very, very well in third person, and that's what I demonstrated. And my approach to voice is a linguistic one. I am kind of concerned with this, or obsessed with it perhaps, because of my Plague of Giants, my Seven Cannings trilogy, because that has 11 different points of view, and first person points of view, and they all need to sound different linguistically. So I broke down how I do that, and that's what that little hour workshop is. And like, this is just linguistics. You actually have all learned it and internalized it, but maybe you didn't have the vocabulary for it or realize, maybe you just never looked at it that way. So I'm trying to help folks see what's actually already there in their brains, because these patterns are already in your heads, but you might not have, the words for them yet, or the nomenclature that I learned while I was an English major, right? So once I let folks know that, give them the tools to basically work with those structures, then they're like, oh yeah, this is pretty easy to differentiate voices. So there you go. That's kind of what I do. If there's ever a writing conference around, I'll guarantee I'll do it, and whatever the writing conference charges is what I charge, because I don't charge anything. So yeah. Any other? Yes, Lee.
Yeah. So did you give Delilah the full Iron Druid tour of Tempe?
I think just
Not only did I receive the full Iron Druid tour, but I was sitting beside one Charlene Harris at the time. So I didn't speak, I just kept going. You'll know, she wrote, Sookie Stackhouse series that Keep Blood is based on, but her husband's a huge fan, so it was so neat. But
actually, yeah, it was one of the coolest things, because Charlene said, your series is one of the few series that both my husband and I like. Because she likes some things that her husband doesn't like, and vice versa, right? So it just happened that they both liked Iron Druid and they could bond over it. So I'm like, oh my god! Yes?
So Kevin, when did we see the next book in the Seven Cannings?
Oh, I get to work on that after this. After this tour, the back half of this year, from whenever we get home, July 27th to
we have always lived on the book tour.
That's right. Till the end of the year, and maybe however long after that it takes. But I'm working on that nonstop until it's done. So yeah, I've got the outline done. It's just because of writing these Pell books, we've written 3 of them. It's not like I haven't been doing anything. So I've written 3 books in the last 18 months, and I did also outline the Light of Black Wings, and that's coming out. So.
I certainly didn't mean to imply that you were resting on your.
Oh yeah, yes. Laurels are actually not really that comfortable to rest on. Yeah, I've tried it just to see one of those weird things. Yes.
I found with Plague of Giants, it was actually easier to read after I heard Luke. Because I got confused when I was just reading it myself.
Oh, okay, I got you. Well, that's cool. I'm glad to hear that helped out a lot. Yeah, that's great. Sometimes audio. Yeah, I think Luke does a fantastic job bringing things to life. So we're actually he's gonna be joining us in Chicago, so that'll be cool. So yeah. We're not missing anybody over here, right? Did I miss a question over here? Just checking. I wanted to make sure because I wasn't looking over there earlier. Yes.
What is your favorite character
in Kill the Farm Boy? Oh gosh. Let me see. I haven't thought about this. It actually took me by surprise.
But also, like, your favorite character to read versus write is hard too, because some of them are easier to write than others.
Yeah. Okay, so I really like Thea because Thea is the sort of the warrior, right? And she gets in fights a lot that's not really her fault, and a lot of violence she's in fights and dang it, she wins. But she doesn't want that at all. She's not going around seeking a fight. Her goal is to have a beautiful rose garden. She wants peace and roses. And dang it, folks won't leave her alone. and so I really like Thea and her progression, and as we learn a lot about like her violent past and how she's trying to escape it. and how she never wanted any of it, and she just wants her peace and roses, please. And when we first meet her, what she's actually trying to do, she has traveled from the other side of hell to get to this tower where it's an enchanted tower with some amazing roses, and she's climbing it to get the heart rose. I think this is chapter 3.
It's pretty early.
Yeah, it's pretty early on when you meet Thea. And she's in bikini chainmail armor because her regular armor is on layaway. So yeah, we like to make fun of the the fantasy tropes, like she's very aware that God, this armor is completely impractical and not saving me from anything at all. Yeah.
Because chafing is real.
Chafing is real. And so, that was actually one of the things that you.
That's a straight quote from the book, y'all.
Yeah, chafing is real.
So real.
So yeah, beware of that one. I know what. Actually, you know what? I think the most fun I've had with writing, there's two things. I love the giant in chapter 10.
Olfactory. He's got a
huge schnoz. Huge nose.
Kind of vegetal in nature.
Vegetal, yes. And he is called, a lot of disparaging names by different people, but his name is Olfactory.
Nebuchadnezzar?
Yes. Peaky McSnot Locker. So anyway, there's a lot of stuff. I loved writing him and what he was like. But then the other thing I liked is I got to write a sonnet in No Country for Old Gnomes in the style of a Griffin poet. And so the Griffin poet was writing about things that are important to Griffins.
I'm sorry, is that a sonnet by the great Hearne?
Hearne was the name of the yeah, naming conventions are a lot of fun in Pell. You always get these very short syllables for griffins, and then for centaurs you have a gerund followed by an adjective. So it could be something like galloping proud, or stampeding triumphant, or pissing victorious, crapping fantastic. So it just depends. And I've had a great time coming up with names. Delilah comes up with stuff all the time and crack me up too. So it's one of the most delightful parts of writing these is coming up with names. I don't know. Anything else? Looks like we got it. And we can. I don't know how Pat wants to do the signing portion, but what we want to.
We're gonna have a blood melee, okay?
Yes.
Ready for this.
What I want to say is that I want to thank you for coming out to see us tonight, and I hope you enjoy Kill the Farm Boy. Hope you will enjoy No Country for Old Gnomes when it comes out next year. And of course, we will sign all the things, not just this, but anything else we have written.
Babies, dogs.
Yeah, sign your forehead, whatever you'd like. Yes, and thank you all so much for coming, and let me give you over to Pat here.